Welcome to this podcast of Sound Off from August 3rd, 2020 with your host, Nate Laux. Nate's topic today is mail-in voting. Now here's your host, Nate Laux.
Hello, friends. Welcome to Sound Off. It is Monday, August 3rd. It is beautiful in LaPorte County. If you've not been outside yet, I hope you do, because it is a wonderful day. It's lower 70s, nice little breeze, warm enough anyway to not feel too bad. Hopefully you get to leave work and enjoy a little bit of the nice weather here locally. We're so glad that you're listening to the show. We're glad to have you with us on Mondays and Fridays on Sound Off. And I will be your host for the next half hour to kind of take you through some conversations that we're going to have together as a community. This is a community conversation show. And so I'd love to hear from you. And there's a couple different ways you can connect with us today. You can call or text the Liquor Vault on-air line at 219-362-0522. But you can also email us at soundoff@967 The Eagle. And it will it'll go right through the interwebs, right through all the internet and get right to me in the studio. And I'd love to hear from you as well. Now, the question today, the topic we're going to talk about is something statewide, not just local, but certainly has local impact and ramifications. The question today is, with COVID-19 and the risk of transmission in crowded areas, obviously we're talking about that with schools and different things like that, but with COVID-19 and the risk of transmission in crowded areas, here's the question. Should Indiana work on a better mail-in ballot initiative? So should Indiana do what many other states are doing right now and work on a better mail-in ballot initiative? I'd love to hear from callers that you have an opinion on mail-in ballots, but if you would use mail-in ballots, I'd love to hear, text, call, email us, let us know. And why is this relevant? Well, obviously there's a national conversation going on right now. The president has not been, short on his opinion. He recently said, hold on real quick. He recently said in a tweet, there is no way that mail-in ballots will be anything less than substantially fraudulent. Mailboxes will be robbed. Ballots will be forged and even illegally printed out and fraudulently signed. The governor of California is sending ballots to millions of people, anyone living in the state, no matter who they are or how they got there. How they got there. That will be followed up with professionals telling all of these people, many of whom have never even thought of voting before, how and for whom to vote. This will be a rigged election, no way. He also said mail ballots, they cheat. Mail ballots are very dangerous for this country because of cheaters. They go collect them. They are fraudulent in many cases. They have to vote. They should have voter ID, by the way. Now, there are many states right now, including conservative-led states, that have mail-in ballots that have pushed the president on that. So, ongoing topic. We'd love to hear from you. We've got a couple callers already. Hello. Welcome to Sound Off. How are you?
Good afternoon. Good. Yourself, sir?
I'm good, man. Did you have a good weekend?
Yeah, pretty good.
Good.
Needed that rain.
Yeah.
Hey, there is no doubt in my mind that a mail-in election would be fraught with fraud and corruption and greed and just all sorts of distasteful things. I believe the last election there was only a 28% turnout. That means if they were to mail out 100% of the eligible voters a ballot request, 72% of them possibly wouldn't vote anyway. And there's no doubt in my mind that the two-party system that we have in LaPorte County and across the country would not be offering up a monetary gift to get that ballot application. And there are people that would be willing to sell that application for money because there's people that don't care. And there's no doubt in my mind that those then would be used against candidates on either party if they're not for what those party people want. So I, for one, do not want to see a mail-in ballot. And the argument that the military's been doing it, there's a little more regulation than just having the United States Postal Service do that. We've all had things lost in the mail. We've all had things detained in the mail, not gotten to us on time, or damaged or stuff like that. So no, if we can have sporting events like the Indy 500 and a baseball game and a football game and these parades across the country and protest and riot, then yes. you can get out of your house, wear your mask if you want. That's up to you. But this way, we can see the name of the person, the picture of the person. We should all have an ID. And go down and cast your ballot like you're supposed to. That's my opinion.
All right. Well, thanks for calling, buddy. Have a good day.
Thank you. Bye.
Yeah, so a lot of people, again, have thought, well, there might be wrought with fraud and things like this. I'm not sure what the complete data is on that, though. I did read a couple studies on that before, and one of the comments that I read was a professor from MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and he's Charles Stewart III, says, what we know can be boiled down to this. Voting fraud in the United States is rare. Less rare is fraud using mail ballots. And then another person, Jude Choate, the director of elections in the Colorado Department of State, says there's just very little evidence that there is more than a handful of fraudulent vote by mail cases across the country in a given election cycle. And I know states like Oregon and Kansas and Colorado do and have had a long history of mail-in ballots. But again, I think the fear is that there's going to be, some kind of fraud in there. And one of the challenges in any situation is when elections are thought to be fraud and we don't trust the election cycle, then I think we all fear that something's not right there. So let's take another caller. Hello, you're on Sound Off.
Yes, I'd like to comment, about the mail-in ballots.
Yeah, sir. How are you?
Okay. Well, first of all, I agree with your first caller there. Your mail-in ballots that's going to do nothing but just open the door for massive fraud. And in today's society, anybody, that wants to cheat the system, they will find the way to do it. And especially when you start opening doors like mail-in ballots, that's all it's going to take. And it is just going to be nothing but a mess. And to even entertain that idea, I wonder what people are thinking. I mean,
so do you think do you think that some of the states that have had, Kansas and I think Texas has now went to mail-in ballots and things like that, do you think they should, stop that, or just you don't like it here in Indiana?
They should stop it. It should be stopped nationally. There should be no mail-in ballot. If you're going to vote, get off your lazy tail. Like the first caller said, put on your mask, go to the polls, and vote. That's how it's done. This mail-in stuff is going to do nothing but ruin. Nothing but ruin. What the procedure is to vote and what it is to be fair in this country. It's doing nothing but opening a door for people to try to cheat the election and get rid of the little orange guy. That's all that boils down to.
So are you against vote by mail in all situations? So if you're sick or you're out of the area, or just kind of in a more broad, robust, vote by mail system?
All right, I see what you're doing here.
No. I'm just because a lot of people are against that.
Let me answer.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let me answer what you said. Okay, well, what you're doing is you're trying to say all mail-in and put it all as one. There's a big difference between an absentee ballot or an illness ballot than there is regular mail-in like they're talking now. Let's not get them confused, and let's not try to say, it's all one thing. That's what the media is trying to do, and that's wrong. It's a completely different process for an absentee ballot or somebody that has health issues. Completely different than mail-in. So let's not try to put the two of them together there. And yes, to answer your question fully, no mail-in voting.
Okay.
Not that way. Only absentee, and only if you cannot get out of the hospital to go vote.
All right.
That's the only way.
I think that's a legitimate opinion. Thank you so much for calling, bud. All right.
Thank you. Bye.
All right, it is sound off right now, and the Liquor Vault on-air line is open. You can call and text us at 219-362-0522, and you can also email us at soundoff@967 The Eagle. The question today is, with COVID-19 and the risk of transmission in crowded areas, should Indiana, like many other states, work on a better mail-in ballot initiative? So far, our callers have, by and large, said no. I'd love to hear what you think. Hello, you're on Sound Off.
Hello, is that me?
Yeah, how are you?
Just fine. My spiel is going to sound like a broken record. I'm exactly with that guy. I learned in school, Election Day is the first Tuesday after the first Monday in May and November. That's it. That's when Election Day. And that's worked for the last 80 years, 100 years or whatever? More than that?
I'm not even sure when Election Day started. Yeah.
There's one there's one way to do, and that's absentee ballot if you're an invalid or you can't get out. Otherwise, there should be no early voting. Early voting's disgusting. I know personally people that early voted, and then in the last, if they vote, 90 days early sometimes, 60 days early? Is that right?
I think it's actually they can vote up to 60 days early. Yeah, if I'm right, or 20.
Yeah. And in that 60 days,
I have it written
they
down
find
somewhere.
something out about this candidate that don't meet with their fancy, and they can't change it. Why don't you wait till Election Day? Why on earth would they want to change Election Day? Do you want to change 4th of July too? Oh, there's people that do. Yeah, but they want to change everything. If it's not broke, don't try and fix it.
So
Election Day is Tuesday in November, Tuesday in May.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you in that. I'm a purist. I like voting on Election Day. It's the experience for me, though. I don't begrudge anybody that wants to vote early. It's not an issue for me. Would you, though? Are you okay with people that maybe during this coronavirus COVID-19 season are allowed to vote by mail, just like you said? I think the word you used was invalid. Those that are sick. Are you okay with those who are high risk being able to given the option to vote by mail?
If they fall under the criteria of absentee ballot for medical reasons, yes.
Okay.
If not, no.
Okay.
And I think there were times when actual people from the polling could come out and bring a ballot, didn't they, to an invalid or something? I thought I heard of that someplace. But in the same way with having different ways of voting, why not have a national standard, especially in the general election for the president of the United States? Years ago we went through the problem of hanging chads in was it Florida, and then machine breakdowns and have to wait, and one more thing that shouldn't be allowed is polling. Polling is a fraudulent thing too, and they influence people who can't think for themselves. Let everybody do their own research, come in on Election Day, and vote, and that's it. Outside of absentee.
Well, thanks so much for calling. I did do an informal poll here in the studio. There's two of us, and the vote came in that Sound Off is a better program than the morning show. Dennis Siddell has confirmed this. So, anyway. We've got a couple more callers coming in. We've got some texts coming in. Today on Sound Off, we're talking about with COVID-19 and the risk of transmission in crowded areas, should Indiana work on a better mail-in ballot initiative? Our Liquor Vault on their line is 219-362-0522. You are welcome to text or call, and you can email us at soundoff@967theeagle. Here is a text that we received. Good afternoon. Hi. I always like it when you start kind. Look at mail-in voting like this. If you won $1 million lottery ticket, would you mail it in? Absolutely not. Why? Fear of getting lost or fraud. Let's take one more call before break. Hello, you're on Sound Off. Hello? Hello? You're on Sound Off, or you're not. One or the other. All right, we're gonna hang up. Sorry. Hello, you're on Sound Off. How are you?
Yeah, I'm here. You there?
Yeah, how are you, bud?
Okay, good. How you doing?
I'm good, thanks.
Yeah, I just want to say, remember a couple of years ago when one of the mailmans up there around New Buffalo dumped off his mail all in a ditch? So do you trust the mail?
Yeah.
So I say go out and vote.
Go out and vote. All right. Well, you know what?
Go out and vote. Show your ID like everybody should, and that way it gets counted.
All right.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, bud. Bye.
Bye.
All right. Today on Sound Off, our conversation is about mail-in ballots, mail-in voting. So far, it looks like most people have been against it, though we're seeing more and more states that are making, kind of allowing it to happen. Colorado, Hawaii, Oregon, Utah, Washington have had mail-in ballots for quite some time, but other states like Alaska, Arizona, California, Washington, D.C., Florida, Georgia, Idaho, Illinois, Iowa, Kansas, Maine, Maryland, Michigan, Minnesota, Montana, Nebraska, Nevada, New Jersey, New Mexico, North Carolina, North Dakota, Ohio. Now I'm going to start singing the song here in a second. Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, South Dakota, Vermont, Virginia, Wisconsin, and Wyoming are allowing for mail-in ballots, specifically for this year. So if you have an opinion or a comment on mail-in ballots in Indiana, should Indiana go to a more robust mail-in ballot system, I'd love to hear from you. Call us at the Liquor Vault on air line at 219-362-0522. You're also welcome to text us or email us at soundoff@967 The Eagle. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back here in just a couple minutes. Thanks for listening. Hello, friends. Welcome back to Sound Off. It's Nate Laux with you again for another maybe 10, 12 minutes. We're going to be having a conversation on mail-in ballots in Indiana. There's been an increasing push by some different leaders, even locally. Our LaPorte County commissioners, all three of them, 2 Democrats, 1 Republican, has encouraged mail-in ballots and things like that. Also, just recently, there's a Republican former lieutenant governor and a Democratic former lieutenant governor that have encouraged current Governor Eric Holcomb to start mail-in ballot preparations and things like that. Love to know what you think. With COVID-19 and the risk of transmission in crowded areas, should Indiana work on a better mail-in ballot initiative? Let's get back to the callers. Hello, you're on Sound Off. How are you?
Yeah, say that mail-in ballots is the right thing to do. You know, you got a little time. You spread it on the table, and you don't have to fill it in all in one day. If you got any questions, you can talk about it, or you can research it on the computer and find out what you think about it, and then you fill it out, and you don't have to leave the house. Right now, you got all this disease all over. You don't know who's going to be hit next. And people like in Florida standing in line for 5 hours. You know, something had to jack around in the primary, so it make them people stand out there in the rain. And another thing, it leaves a paper trail in case there's some discrepancy, which matters a lot more than just pulling a ballot, and then they have no evidence of who done what, and they throw the votes out. Now, there's another thing that might be messing up the mail-in thing, is Postmaster General has just been appointed by Trump not too long ago because he donated $1.5 million to Trump's campaign. Now, under the covers, we don't know if that Postmaster General will start delaying the mail. He's already threatening to go ahead and delay mails because he cut out all overtime for the post offices. So that could be a factor that could cause a bunch of trouble that Trump would go ahead and try to generate. And we'll have to wait and see what happens there. But mail-in ballots, you know, there's other states. Utah is one of them. They've been having mail-in ballots for the whole state all the time, and there's absolutely no fraud, they said in there.
Yeah.
Somebody, you know, go and stand in a line or whatever, then you want to go back later. You know, if you get caught with fraud, there's a federal offense, you know, and that should be considered too. I don't see no reason for people that want a mail-in ballot to not have it. It's to their advantage, whether you're old or whether you're going to be out. You don't know if you're going to be out of town that day.
Well, so, I think that's
my opinion.
Yeah, no, thanks so much for calling. Thank you.
You bet. Bye-bye.
Got another caller? Hello, you're on Sound Off. How are you?
Good afternoon. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks, man.
Well, I drank the Kool-Aid as most of the first callers. I don't agree. Mail-in ballots, that's totally, like the one caller says, totally different than absentee. I don't have a problem with absentee ballots. You know, they request them. They have to have their signature on there. When that comes back, they check that signature with the signature in the book, and that's what took so long this spring, or this summer, I guess it got moved back to, I should say. And with the way they're talking about doing with these mail-in, they're just talking about mail-in to everybody. Some states want to mail it to everybody, whether you're an American citizen or not. You know, there's a little difference there. And then, you know, and if they mail it to everybody, the person might have died. Somebody else gets that ballot. They can now send it back in. There is a lot of room for fraud there. When I went and voted at the primary, I was one of 2 people in there. There was more people working in there than there was at the place I went for Cool Spring Township.
Yeah.
You know, so it's not like it's packed.
I think, especially this year, I think we had, record amount of early voting for primary this year.
Right.
Yeah.
And I have no problem with that. Go ahead and early. But like I said, if someone does mess up, you can't change your vote.
Yeah.
If you do go early vote. But have the voting centers, there's no reason why you can't social distance, go in there and vote. There's just too much room for fraud. I mean, if people in apartment buildings, they all get a ballot, and half of the apartments are empty because they send them to everybody. If there's changed addresses and they don't know that, they would have sent it to this, somebody can grab all them ballots and mail them back in with all their, votes on there.
Yeah.
So there's just too much room for fraud. Like I said, I understand the few people that do need to do it, or if you are worried, from catching something, then yes, do the absentee ballot. But everybody should not get a ballot mailed to them.
All right. Well, thanks so much for calling.
All right. Have a good day.
Yeah, you too, buddy. Today, we're talking a little bit about mail-in ballots and should people be allowed to mail-in ballot here in Indiana. Many other states, as some callers have mentioned, do allow it. As one caller mentioned, Utah has had mail-in balloting for quite some time. Currently, outside of a pandemic, people can vote early. They can kind of use mail-in ballot processes, but here are the requirements in order to do that. You have to be 65 or older, disabled or sick, have a religious commitment, are a member of the military or a public safety officer, can't find transportation to a polling station, or are designated as a serious sex offender by the state. And again, the debate right now is with COVID-19, should that increase to include people that don't feel safe by going out because of the pandemic, or people that might have, diabetes or some other illness that might be a high-risk category? Should they also be allowed to do mail-in balloting? Should other people? Those kind of questions. We do have a couple more callers on coming in. If you have a question or an opinion, comment, do call us at the Liquor Vault on air line at 219-362-0522. You're welcome to text us. Email us at soundoff@967 The Eagle, and we'll read those if we can as well. Here we have a text that came in. Good afternoon. Hey, good afternoon to you too. If we as a county aren't going to make Election Day a national holiday so that more people can vote, then we need to find alternative methods so people can vote, especially during a pandemic during November when COVID-19 is supposed to spike again. Also, there are countless studies that prove mail-in voter fraud is rare. This is a Trump talking point. We should be finding ways to make voting more accessible, not limiting options. Thank you so much for the text there. We have a couple more callers, just a couple more minutes in the show. Let's take line number 2. Hello, how are you? Welcome to Sound Off.
Hi. No, I should not. I say on the mail-in vote, no. Because I am disabled, and I personally get out and mail in. I personally get out. I do mail or vote. I do not. No mail.
Okay. Well, I think that's I think it's one of those debates that we're having. I think I appreciate so much the call, and I think again, I love to hear the stories of people that might have different kind of comorbidities or different kind of illnesses saying no, they're going to go out and vote. So I appreciate the call.
Yes, I am disabled.
Yep. So you will be voting in person then?
Yes, I did. I did go out in a primary and vote.
Okay, all right.
So yes, I did. I am disabled, but yes, I do go out and personally vote.
All right. Well, thank you so much for calling. I appreciate that input there. Thanks so much.
Okay.
We've got a couple other callers coming in, some texts. Here's another text for you. Think of this scenario. Within 10 years, you might be voting on the internet and or your cell phone. Yeah, maybe. I don't know what the system for that is and what, I don't know if any other countries are doing that, but could be. So here on the Liquor Vault on air line, we've got a couple more callers. If you have a question or a comment or opinion, call us at 219-362-0522. Welcome to Sound Off. How are you?
Hi, fine.
Good.
Thank you. The problem with voting in America is too few people vote, not that too many people vote. The text you got, not the last one, but the one before, really was spot on. 28% approximately of eligible American voters voted in the Clinton-Trump presidential election, a presidential election in America, and only 28% of our eligible voters vote. That's a disgrace. Our soldiers and sailors left their lifeblood on the sands of Iwo Jima, Vietnam, World War I, et cetera, so we could have this precious right, maybe our most precious right, and that is to vote, instead of like in Russia where Putin gets congratulated on winning re-election when his party is the only party on the ballot. I couldn't believe that. So what you're seeing is American... Now, I don't agree with this taking a knee thing, so our voters should stop taking a knee because on Election Day, because that's... Look up at the American flag and say, I'm going to vote one way or another, and I agree with those exceptions that you read.
So you're okay with the mail-in ballots then? You are okay with...
Well, I am with...
under certain circumstances, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Instead of not voting at all, it's like taking a knee on steroids.
All right, well...
And American... Go ahead.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for calling. We are at our time. I appreciate it. And I'm so sorry to all the callers and the texters and the emailers that we did not get to. Lots of opinions on this. Again, if you want to continue this conversation, do go to the 96.7 The Eagle Facebook page. We have different conversations. You can always participate in Dennis's morning show question of the day as well. But take it there. We'd love to hear from you. We appreciate you. Thank you so much for listening. This is a community conversation show for a community in conversation. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to others. Have a great day. We'll see you back here again on Friday.
Thank you for joining us and voicing your opinion on this edition of Sound Off. The views on Sound Off are those of the host or callers and do not represent the opinion of 96.7 The Eagle, Spoon River Media LLC, or the sponsors. Sound Off airs every Monday and Friday at 12:30. Please mark your calendar and join us again for the next edition of Sound Off on 96.7 The Eagle.
Thanks for listening to the Sound Off podcast on 96.7theeagle.com.